welcome to the meeting of the Legislative and Human Resources Committee of the Kent County Board of Commissioners. It is about 8:30, 8:31, thereabouts. We'll go ahead and get started. First item on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the committee, you may do so. Identify yourself, and you have up to 3 minutes on a matter that's on the agenda, and I don't see anyone. So we'll move immediately to item number 2, which is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve? It is moved and supported. Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? They are approved. Next item of business, Board of Commissioners Friend of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee appointment.
Yes, this is a request to appoint James Sykes to the Friend of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee for a 3-year term ending December 31, 2022. An appointment for a non-custodial parent position on the Friend of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee was left unfilled following the annual appointment process. Additional solicitation of applicants occurred in the months following the annual appointments. An interview team consisting of Commissioners Steck, Coleman, and Skaggs reviewed applications and interviewed candidates. It is recommended that James Sykes be appointed to the non-custodial parent position on the Friend of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee.
Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved and supported. Discussion? Yes.
Is this the last of our appointments? I think we have some in the spring or one in the spring. Does this complete the whole course of appointments?
It does not. There is one position that is still open for, we reopened it. I think it will close, I'm not sure, when does it close? March 31. So that will close, and then we do continue to look for, I believe it's the Fire Commission is still down one position with no applicants. So at this point, we will continue to court applicants for that position, and when we do get them, we'll process that.
Thank you.
There's another question. Yes.
Just, were we able to get multiple applicants for this time, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and thank you to my colleagues, Skaggs and Coleman, for joining me for that interview. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is approved. Good. Let's move to item number 4, Bureau of Equalization.
This is a request to the Board of Commissioners to convert 2 part-time land-based administration technician 1 positions to 1 FTE land-based administration technician position. The Bureau of Equalization is requesting to convert 2 part-time land-based administration technician of 1 positions to 1 FTE land-based administration technician 1 position. The land-based administration technician 1 position was previously a full-time position and converted to 2 part-time positions as a staffing accommodation that is no longer necessary. The conversion of the 2 part-time positions back to 1 will allow the department to provide consistency and stability in scheduling and work more productively, as well as create a better fit for real estate or title professionals seeking a long-term career opportunity with the county. The impact of the associated staffing change is cost neutral, since the 2020 budget was based on a 1 FTE staffing level.
Is there a motion to approve? It is moved, supported? Support. And supported. Is there discussion? Yes, Commissioner Anderson.
Just because we're going to have a brief meeting today anyhow, I'd like to know more, how this has gone.
As soon as you say that.
I know. I'll jinx the whole thing. It's okay. I will, how this has gone from being full-time to being part-time to being back to full-time, and what this person does to, enhance the equalization office. So might as well hear a little bit about it.
Matt Wolford, you're going to answer that question for us?
Sure. Good morning.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. So yeah, what we did is we had 2 full-time equivalents in this role in the past, and we repurposed one of those to the data scientist position, leaving 1 full-time equivalent in this role. That person requested a short-term accommodation for some family needs, and we felt that that person was a good long-term employee prospect. So we did that. We divided it into two half-time positions. And that person that we made that accommodation for has subsequently accepted a promotion as a real property appraiser and started back full-time. So that gave us an opportunity to reevaluate, and for the purposes that we laid out for scheduling and for long-term stability, we wish to recombine the half-times into that full-time position again. So by making the accommodation, it allowed us to both retain and then ultimately promote into a new role, one of the incumbents, and now we're looking to reboot and draw from the professional real estate and title industries to bring in that next person who can bring the skill set on a full-time basis.
Go ahead.
What does this person do? What does that mean, land
Yeah,
base?
land-based administration technician. We tried to come up with as many syllables as possible when we were looking at these titles, obviously. So this person's key skill set is taking all of the documents that are recorded at the Register of Deeds and analyzing the underlying legal description to validate whether or not there's any boundary changes to the property, whether or not there's any title issues or chain of title issues that would come to bear as a property transfer that would affect the assessment administration. So to kind of borrow from the analogy that I've used in the past, these are the ones that make sure that the puzzle piece is described in the exact same way, and whether or not there's a change to the parcel puzzle piece that is warranted. And so it's a highly technical position. It's one where they have to have a real good, solid footing in terms of legal and surveys and legal descriptions. And it's really technical work, and those people do a really good job for us on a daily basis.
I'm always amazed at how many times there are those discrepancies in title work. So,
It's remarkable, and as you can imagine, the people in these roles are dealing with real estate industries, attorneys, surveyors, engineers on a daily basis, on both the most routine and also the real problem ones that come through the county.
more power to them, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Matt, could you go into a little bit more detail about how you're utilizing Mike Fortman to support these works, the work of this person and others in that department?
Yeah, thank you, Wayman. So, as I mentioned at the outset, we used to have two full-time incumbents in this role, and when we repurposed Mike's Fortman data scientist position into this, it was with the idea that we'd be able to leverage really two things. The first one we were going to leverage was there's a new system at the county clerk through the Register of Deeds, and we'd be able to take advantage of electronic workflows, and we would be able to incorporate Mike into that process by helping him sort of redesign some of the workflows. So we thought we'd gain some productivity there, and Mike has worked with our IT department. Steve Watson in the IT department's done a job working with Tyler Technologies to sort of analyze that workflow a little bit. And then secondarily, we were relying on a collaboration with the Register of Deeds office where they have absorbed some of our previous workflows. And so sort of collaborating with the county clerk and then also collaborating with Mike Fortman, we felt that we could go from that two full-time equivalent position, gain the productivity and the collaboration in order to get us to a lesser full-time equivalent blueprint in future budgets. And we've been in a little bit of transition because the electronic workflows are not fully reinstated yet, and because of the conversion with the Register of Deeds system, we really don't have what we feel like is going to be the new normal for this. So today, we're simply asking to reinstate the one full-time equivalent. We are evaluating that, and if we do, once we achieve a new normal with the new electronic workflow and the new staffing level in cooperation with the clerk's office, we'll know whether there's any residual effort that is going to be needed there from a personnel standpoint. And if we do that we'll just go through the normal budget process in the coming year to see if there's any shortfall. We've got, several departments and several different technologies working together, so we're hoping that we're gonna be able to answer this through productivity and collaboration. And, stay tuned, we'll let you know how that goes, but I'm optimistic about that.
Commissioner Hennessy, were your questions answered? Thank you. Anyone else? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is approved. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Next item of business, number 5, from the Health Department.
Yes, this is a request to the board to add one FTE public health educator position. The Lake Shore Regional Entity has made $118,000 available to provide substance use prevention programs within Kent County. These programs previously were provided by Cherry Health, but Cherry Health decided to eliminate these programs effective March 31, 2020. Because the Health Department currently offers similar substance use prevention programs, the LRE requests the Health Department expand its services as of April 1 of 2020. The Health Department will be offering the following programs: Prime for Life Minor in Possession, Pseudo Designated Youth Tobacco Use Representative, and No Cigs for Kids. Prime for Life is a substance use prevention program for teen and young adults. Pseudo is also a substance use prevention program that targets Latino youth in area schools. The DYTUR and No Cigs for Our Kids are programs to ensure vendors are not selling tobacco to minors. To support the work required by the LRA programs, one FTE public health educator position will be created. The cost of salary and benefits for the position is $40,577 for 6 months. In addition, the .05 FTE of an existing public health program supervisor, a .4 FTE of an existing health educator, .036 FTE of an existing clerk, too, will be charged to the grant. Total cost for these positions for the 6 months grant period are $42,428. Travel supplies, contractual and overhead costs are $34,995. The grant period is April 1 through 2020 to September 30, 2020. If funding is eliminated or decreased, the positions will be eliminated unless continuation funding is approved pursuant to the fiscal policy on grants and donations. Corporate counsel will review and approve all documents as to form prior to signature.
Is there a motion to approve this? It is moved, supported, and supported. Comments? Yes, Commissioner Coleman. Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you. Are these programs mandated at some level? Like, does the LRA have to supply these funds and we have to do these particular programs?
Don't believe so, but I'm going to have Teresa come up and explain it. I may be wrong.
Good morning, Teresa.
Morning. Thank you for your question. With these funds, each community receives so many substance use prevention block grant dollars. In terms of which programs are decided upon, every community is required to do the designated youth tobacco use representative program, which is involves doing sign-our checks with law enforcement and youth. So that program is specifically required in communities. The other programs, we work with the Lakeshore Regional Entity and other providers and looking at data to determine which are some of the best programs. At the Kent County Health Department and amongst the other prevention providers, we look to identifying evidence-based prevention programs to meet the needs of the youth that we intend to reach. So we do have some flexibility for the types of programs, but we choose, programs that have some evidence to support them. You're welcome.
Yes, Commissioner Hennessy.
I would like a little bit more, it did give a statement here in terms of, the other, how the pieces come together on this. But I'd like to know more about how you work together, the various educator positions, how we work with the schools, what age groups, if you're working in urban areas, if you're working in rural school districts, just sort of a little bit more of an overview of how this all works together to fill in a puzzle of reaching youth.
Yes, absolutely. So with the different programs here, and these, this one position we're requesting is to support the Yo Puedo program. And that program targets Hispanic Latino youth. And so that program has been around for 30 years, and it's operated in 7 schools that have high percentages of Hispanic students. So those same schools, we also have a team of about 8 public health educators that are also delivering other prevention programs for a number of years, and they have built up relationships and in partnership with the KISD to identify schools. So all of these programs, they're not in any particular school. Our goal is to market the programs, reach out to schools, identify the schools that would like to engage. Normally, we haven't had to market the programs. Usually by the time schools start in the fall, our staff are scheduling out well into the spring. With these programs, because they were formerly delivered by Cherry Health and they're new programs to us, we'll have to spend some time working again with the Kent Intermediate School District, doing outreach to all schools throughout Kent County to determine the schools that would like us to invite us in to deliver these programs. In terms of age group, for these programs are mostly targeting probably high school age students, particularly the DYTUR program, which is associated with the minors in possession. So that program is more focused on youth who are already showing signs of at risk for substance use, and also youth that are either already in juvenile detention, or there's a specific program located within the Kent County Sheriff's Office where in the past Cherry Health worked with some of those sites, and that is our goal as well, is to reach the youth who may already be showing signs or may have already been cited or had a misdemeanor, and to connect with those agencies to reach older youth. So none of these programs are targeted towards elementary, it's more teenagers and older. So, does that answer your question?
Or I have follow-ups.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
So are you reaching, like Grand Rapids Public Schools, or, the urban schools or East Grand Rapids schools, as well as maybe, schools up in Sparta or Cedar Springs or
Yes,
down in
absolutely.
Byron Center? I mean, how does that work? And I'm curious too, if you work, the Sheriff's Department, we know has officers in many of our outlying schools. Do you work with those officers in particular?
So again, with these programs, with all of our prevention programs, because we have other substance use prevention programs, we don't focus specifically on one school district. These programs that we're taking on, that Cherry Health previously had, are going to be made available to any school throughout Kent County that is interested in having these programs there. So in the past, some of these programs were specifically in Kentwood and in Grand Rapids schools, and because that's what Cherry Health chose to do with those programs. With the programs for Yo Puedo, we'll have to look at the schools that have higher concentrations of Hispanic youth, because the schools identify students to participate in those programs. And then as for working with the Sheriff's Office and their school resource officers, that is one thing we're already going to start doing through some of the marijuana funds that just came before the board recently. And our goal would be to connect again with both KISD. Sheriff's Department will be very key in the minors in possession program, to connect with them so we can provide people with a resource for programming. So absolutely, whatever we can do to work with the Sheriff's Office and their school resource liaisons to get these programs in the school would be ideal.
You have one more?
I just want to say thank you, because we received, like the marijuana program or this one, we received the requests for additional persons to accept grant funds on an isolated basis, and it's nice to know more about how it all wraps together. So I appreciate explanations like this.
Thank you.
Commissioner Melton?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
My question was answered some. I'm going a little bit deeper here. With such a short period of time that this grant or funding is available, I don't know who the Wonder Woman or Superman is going to be. Truly, I mean, this is several people's worth of work. Mm-hmm. But will there be some room in there for them to be able to establish, like a blueprint, so that, heaven forbid, but that the funding does run out, that there are others in your health department that can go forward with it, I guess. We, in Kentwood, we had a nurse for just 2 years, but she was able to make such an impact that many of the teachers, not all, but were able to go forward with what she had put together.
Yep. Great question. So while these funds are through September 30th, this is just to fulfill the contractual year that Cherry Health isn't completing. So the goal would be that come October 1, that these funds would be reinstated at the full amount for 12 months. The health department also is a recipient of Lakeshore Regional Entity dollars. In fact, I think in terms of prevention, we're probably the largest prevention provider. So we have a team of educators who are already delivering other prevention programs. So while it seems like a short period to get these programs off and running, I have every bit of confidence in the staff that are going to be trained in these programs. And because of the relationships that have already been built with the schools. One of our educators is already working in juvenile detention and at the Sheriff's Department on some prevention and intervention programs. So I think we have some of the relationships built and the staff identified so that we can get them quickly trained and up and running and get the outreach to the schools to get these programs in place well beyond October 1st. You're welcome.
Commissioner Talon?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning.
Morning.
My initial question was partially answered as well when you said that we don't know exactly where what schools this person will be operating in. But I'm still a little curious. I'm always concerned about silos and kind of curious about exactly what that looks like when this educator is in a school where, for example, KSSN is pretty well embedded, established. What is that connection, that communication, what does that actually look like? Can you share any sense of that? They email regularly? Do they have team meetings with, all the education programs that are going on? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, and so we do have a staff person who's part of school wellness teams in multiple schools throughout Kent County. And so in terms of KSSN, in the past, I know we have marketed to the schools that have KSSN in them. That's a mouthful. And I do think that's something I definitely can take back to the health education promotion supervisor to make sure we're making those connections, that we understand where are all the school resource officers that the sheriff's office has. What all schools are we in that has KSSN, so that we're not, so that we're making sure that we're utilizing and leveraging all of those resources that are in place and those relationships that are built. So again, I think that we can be very mindful before we start these new programs in those schools, to look at where do we already have some county resources in place. So we will make that part of our goal. But also, because some of those programs aren't in all schools, we also want to be, fair in terms of promoting those to schools who don't have that as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, because that's kind of what I was thinking, is these are all kind of county resources, county-funded
Yes.
things, and we really ought to be talking a lot together, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
so
would be their plan.
appreciate that.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Any other questions? I do have a follow-up question, Teresa, with respect to the funding of this. Is the ultimate source of the funding the PA2 funds
These,
that are funneled through the Lakeshore Regional Entity, PHP?
yeah, so these funds, it's my understanding, like every community, like I think about 2% of the liquor tax dollars are specifically for prevention. So I do not believe that any of these dollars would be impacted by what's going on the side of the, in terms of treatment with the PIHP. That these dollars are specifically designated for prevention and not impacted by any of the PIHP plans.
So that's what I wanted to underscore. These are dollars that are going to be made available for the county services, regardless of what we ultimately end up doing at the Lakeshore Regional Entity.
Yes.
It may affect how they get funneled, but ultimately they're going to be able to be here.
Absolutely, regardless of what happens there. I mean, the 2% of all the prevention treatment dollars, it's a small amount, but we're able to do quite a bit with it, and happy that that part would not be impacted by that.
All right, any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Thank you, Teresa. All right, next item is miscellaneous. Does anyone have any miscellaneous? Yes, Commissioner Ball.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for Wayman concerning the land bank and sunsetting that. We don't often sunset a lot of things here in the county, but how did that go and where are we at with that? And did we have to use any general funds to shut that down? And
No, general funds had to be used to move that forward. Ken Parrish, our treasurer, gave an update a few weeks ago.
I wasn't there for that.
Yeah, they've moved the program on. It's now run by the state land bank now. There are some open items that they still need to work through, but all of that work is now being transferred to the state land bank. The Grants City has a few properties. I think there's a property in Sparta that still is opened out there, but they're the outfit now that has responsibility for managing. The county, however, is watchful and mindful of what's going on. We do get contacted from time to time, various entities, individuals. So we are, we are continuing to maintain a close relationship with the treasurer and making sure that things move smoothly as this thing moves forward.
So that's working well with the city and the local townships and so forth?
Very well. No issues.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Hennessy?
Follow up on that, are all the financial obligations clear? Are we set?
To my knowledge, we are. I've not heard of any issues. There was one case that was in dispute with one of the sales. Yeah, it was a lawsuit. I think that might be still an open item, but as far as items that the land bank has to be concerned with, I think all of that is now transferred to the state.
There are no outstanding loans or anything else?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's qualified.
As you know. As you know, because the board didn't have oversight of the land bank to the extent that we could, there's not an obligation for us to do any auditing of that. However, from what I've heard, there aren't any outstanding issues that we should be concerned about from a financial standpoint. That's what I know to date.
I think we anticipate we'll still get another report from
Yeah,
Ken Parrish
Right.
as that wraps up finally. Commissioner Melton?
Thank you, Chair. Just two quick things, and I guess probably Thursday, you may hear it again, but just so exciting to read about the influential women in Kent County, and while there were 50 of them, for our own county sheriff to be one of them, and she truly is, and she's not here, but I just think she's so deserving. She's a role model for young persons, whether you are female, male, and just how to carry yourself, she speaks well, she holds herself well, she doesn't at all look like the sheriffs of the Wild West, and I don't mean that to sound funny, but too often I think that's what we expect, and it just was a real pleasure to have her be part of that. And then I would really like Teresa to thank the Health Department, Adam London, and it's funny for me to see Dr. Adam London, not that I didn't know he wasn't a doctor, but he's just always been Adam, and his updates in this world and time of confusion, and it's a wild time of what we're hearing going here and what we're hearing going there, and the downplaying, the upplaying. He's just a calm voice of resource, and I have told anyone who will listen in my district, follow what the county department is saying. I would take him over just about anyone else right now, certainly in the country, as far as doing his research, and it puts some perspective and some calm in a time when it could be a really and has been a very scary time. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Talon?
Thank you, Chair. when you put a lot of time and effort into task force work, you always wonder if the recommendations are going to sit on a shelf, what's going to happen to it. So I'm happy to report that the Michigan Jails Task Force members received an email from Chief Justice McCormick yesterday saying that a first set of 10 bills had been drafted relating to driver's license suspensions, removing mandatory minimum jail sentences in certain situations, and changing non-moving traffic misdemeanors and reclassifying them as civil infractions. So that's pretty exciting to see some of those recommendations moving along. What I learned during the process was how much this has potential for affecting our budgets here, frankly. How many people are in jail, how many people go through the court process, how many people the sheriff has extended contact with. So it's pretty exciting that this continues to move along, and another set of 10 or 12 bills are expected to come out in the next few weeks to address other recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and for your work on that. Anyone else? I do have just a couple of items. First, our federal lobbyist is scheduled to appear before this committee in May. It's the May 26th meeting of this committee where we will, I think it's the first time our federal lobbyist will appear before us, so.
This group, yeah.
Yep. So we'll be kind but ready for him. So look forward to that. And then just for those of you wondering, where are we in the process of refining the statement of legislative priorities? We are in that hopefully final glide path for getting a final version or a penultimate version, whichever it may be. And we'll circulate that out. The idea is that we can get this out and get final comments back in and be able to get it to the committee for its approval on the next meeting on the 24th. So we'll get something out and try to give it your last quick response, and we'll see if we're ready to go. Yes, Commissioner Talon.
Sorry, your
I
comment
triggered
on
something.
You did, the federal lobbyist. I wanted to share that when I was at NACO in DC last week, I picked up a few extra copies of the report of the NACO and Sheriff's Association on the Medicaid exclusion, inmate exclusion issue. It's a fairly long report, but if anyone's interested in that in preparation for the federal lobbyist, I have, I think, 3 copies available, so let me know.
That's relevant to one of our federal priorities. So,
Exactly, yep.
all right, anything else? If not, if I can hold off just a little longer for Commissioner Vonk's parking meter to run, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you. Thank you.